Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Monday Motivation. I'm your host, Daniel Krakowski, joined, as always, by Goran Vasovic.
What's going on?
And today, we convinced him, twisted his arm to stick around. We got CJ Grenier. What's up, man?
Here to help out today, guys. Let's get Monday rolling.
Yes, thank you for stopping in and actually going just back-to-back podcasts. Did we do this before, Daniel?
I don't know. This is a lot of power. This is a lot of horsepower.
Yeah, we just went 1 hour.
Right
you're
now.
like, you know what? We're gonna keep going. We're gonna 10x it.
Hey, I've been traveling for the past 36 hours straight, so let's just keep it going. It's awesome.
Perfect. Redline it.
Let's
so
keep going.
in our previous podcast that was either released, I think a little bit earlier in the week, we talked about with CJ the idea of. Well, maybe we should just recontextualize that story.
Yeah.
So, CJ's working at the gym, sees a guy come in, sees this awesome watch on him.
Gets blinded by the watch.
Yeah, and says...
The bling blinded me.
Yeah, goes out and just jumps in, says, hey what's
bro,
going on? I want to get to know you.
Yes.
What's the story? Tells him a little bit about what he does, and CJ just jumps in, moves on, and completely switches industries.
Throws the weights away and just runs
fair
out.
to say?
That's fair to say, man. It was a hell of a lot easier to stay in shape when you're working in the gym. It's a little harder in the office now, but
No doubt.
it worked out in the long run. The biggest thing was, seeing something that it was an industry I was interested in, and saw somebody who was in a position that, hey, I wanted to be in. So it's like, hey, man, what can I do for you?
Were you uncomfortable when you first did that? Is that something that you've always done? Going back to childhood, were you always just kind of, jumping off roofs without looking how high up you were, that kind of stuff?
I would say it was much more of a perspective that I never had a hesitation talking to people and, really feeling somebody out in terms of saying like, hey man, tell me about yourself. Like, I'll tell you about me. It might be difficult to realize, but I have no hesitation talking about myself. And so I like hearing about other people. And, if I'm talking to somebody who's like, hey, you're doing ABC, and it's like, man, that's awesome. Like, everybody always asks that. If you see a dude driving a Bentley, the first thing you ask him is like, what do you do? Like,
What do you hate?
Yeah, like, you're either gonna say, what do you do, or that guy sucks, So, but obviously everybody always asks that question, what do you do? Because you're like, you sell real estate. Cool. Well, I'm going to sell real estate so I can get a Bentley. And, long story short was, that was my mentality. But instead of just being like, what do you do? And then never thinking about it again, I was like, cool, man. Anything you need me to do, I'll do. Like, I'm in. Like, you got my attention. You tell me to jump, I'll say how high. I was 23 and, learning the industry. And so whatever he wanted me to do, I was in.
One of those Wolf of Wall Street moments where when he shows him the $60,000 check that he made last month, he calls his boss, say, you know what, I quit. I'm gonna go with this guy.
Yeah.
Dawn, it's none of her business.
Yeah. I think that's really difficult for people. I think it's great that you've kind of naturally had that inclination your whole life, the willingness to go take that risk. My upbringing is very risk averse, so to me it was more of a learned skill. And I was just speaking about this with someone, and I can't remember if this was on a Monday Motivation, but what I ended up having to do is writing down what I was going to do that day, and that was just it. It removes the option when you're in your clear headspace, when you're in the morning and you write down, hey, I'm going to go call 100 people, and I'm going to call them from 9 a.m. until 5:30 p.m., and just put myself out of my comfort zone. If you can objectively know that that's the right thing to do, translate that onto the page and just make yourself, now you've made a promise to yourself. You've put it out there in the world. This is what I'm doing. It becomes a little bit easier. That's your task, and you go out there and do it.
Yeah, sometimes having a plan or a list or task list might be a little bit easier for somebody. I think you mentioned that you were an introvert at some point, which was hard for me to understand because you're just awesome on video. You're awesome on the mic. So
Thank you.
Right. So would you say that in your case, writing it down and actually visualizing going, through 1 through 10, that's how you kind of got over it? And
yeah, absolutely. And also there was kind of a component of, in this business, I think you'd agree, CJ, doing what you say you're going to do is super important. And a lot of people don't do that. Right?
It's really one of those things where, everybody will promise the moon, but then, they'll deliver, rocks instead. And it's one of those things where, so many people will, again, look at again, shout out to Gary Vee on it, talking about the clouds and the dirt. They always look at the, the finer things that come along with what somebody's doing, whether it's the cars or the watches, the boats or the houses and things like that, but they don't take into consideration what it took to get there. And so, really being able to say, look at it from a logical perspective and say, cool, look, I'm going to do A, B, C, and making that list of 1 through 10 items a day of a step-by-step basis, and actually having a layout makes it, having a game plan like anything else, whether you're talking about sports or whether you're talking about business, having an actual game plan and having a set of rules and ideas behind it is going to make it a lot easier to get you to the finish line.
And I think it's also important, having the game plan is one thing, but and when people do create this game plan, then they say, okay, well, I'm not really good at speaking to strangers, so I'm not going to do that because that's not my strength, versus saying, okay, well, how can I get better at that? And that's kind of what my mentality is when I'm approaching pretty much anything, real estate or podcasting or vlogging. I didn't know how to edit, how to shoot, how to record. And that didn't stop me. I just said, okay, what do I need to do to get on that level? And then I just proceeded, to, learn from others or learn myself.
Yeah. One thing that I think I've gotten really good at, and that I do better than 99% of people, is I think I'm much better at learning than most other people are. I've had so many different hobbies. Like every time I see something or I hear about someone's job, I'm like, oh, I wish I could be a doctor too. Like I wish I had time to fit that in and do a little bit of that on the side. And like last year I got super excited and did a bunch of serious research on full contact jousting, like to see if that was the thing that I could do. Seriously, I'm like, that looks awesome. But the nice thing about it is, like rock climbing is the thing that I've gotten into in the last 5 months.
Sure have.
Afraid of heights, definitely not something I was good. I was definitely in the 30th percentile of ability in it naturally.
Starting out, that's better than anything.
All the children were better than me, right? Like my girlfriend kicked my ass.
The jungle gyms, and they're beating you.
Yeah, totally. But I really focused, and I have a friend who's very experienced climber out in Colorado, and I would just go home and I would obsess and I would study and I would think about and I would visualize and I'd actually practice movements without a rock in front of me, crazy person stuff. But now we can climb.
You're not crazy though.
Yeah, well, but now we can climb together, and he's still better than me, but we're at a more commensurate level, and I think that really I attribute that to my ability to learn and practice, but also do it with strategy.
That makes a big difference. And I'm, a victim to this as well. When I was younger, and even today, and that's what really kind of made me better at real estate, was I was 20% good at everything I would try to do, whether I was snowboarding or playing golf or playing basketball or whatever it is. I could do it with anybody and not look like a complete idiot. Right. But I would never be great at it.
Yep.
Because you don't put in that time and that effort to really actually practice. A lot of guys don't like playing golf with me because I'm super casual about it. I'm like, whatever. I'll play all the time, but don't really care how I play. I just like being out there and having a good time. A lot of guys obviously like to pursue to get better at it, but that's what really made me better at real estate. Was it was something that I picked up, and I was like, man, I'm going to learn everything I can about this, and I want to, take this to the next level, because I see the opportunity there in terms of creating a future for myself, doing what I wanted to do, mixing the sales with the operational side of things, as well as now mixing in the marketing side of things. And so a lot of different things that, you can really roll into one actual product. And that made it something that worth pursuing to that 100% rather than 20%.
Right. How do you handle fear when you encounter it? For example, going to real estate and not knowing. How were you able to overcome that? Getting in front of the camera, doing a very good video on YouTube, and having a really good, social media presence. How did you get over that initial fear? I'm assuming you were like, hey, I'm not a natural, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it, even though I have this fear of what if, I fail? What if people laugh at me? What if I don't, look good doing it, etc.?
Honestly, I would say I was probably about 25 years old, and again, unfortunately it's an issue of mine, but I stopped giving a shit about what anybody thought.
Yep.
You know, is really what it came down to. You know, doing the videos, doing, you know, how I spoke to, you know, clients, cold calling, you know, I didn't care if I got hung up on. I don't care if, you know, obviously 99 out of 100 people said no or didn't listen to what I said. I didn't care what, you know, a lot of the people thought about me doing my videos and things like that. And you know what, to be honest with you, ever since I took that mentality, you know, obviously it's not a matter of me being like a total dick about everything, but it's a matter of like, if I'm going to do something, I'm not going to hesitate by taking into consideration what other people are going to think about it.
Right.
And so a lot of people obviously take into consideration, oh, what's my girlfriend going to think? What's my friend going to think? What are my coworkers going to think? And stuff like that. You know, I go along the lines of like, I'm just going to do it and see what the product comes out as, rather than, hey, let me really kind of evaluate what everybody else's opinion on the matter is going to be. You know, it's obviously important to take into consideration what the reason you're doing it, and that you're doing it for the right reasons, and that you actually have an idea of why you're doing it. But you know, the biggest fear when people remove the mentality of worrying about what someone else's opinion on how you conduct yourself or how you are going to try to do the next step, especially when it comes to your career and professional you know, ideas, is, you know, taking out their opinion on the matter and just doing it is what really separates people, I think, from being, you know, being okay to being actually like, you know, and excelling in something.
Yeah, I think it's important that a lot of people overanalyze the first time of doing something or wanting something to be great, so they have to make sure everything is covered. And when I did the first podcast, first sale, first vlog, I'm like, hey, this is going to be the worst one. Every single one after this is going to be the best one and the best one and the best one. So the sooner I got over that first one, the sooner I did the worst one, the sooner I got closer to my...
I remember your first video. I recorded it, I think.
Right. It was not good. I did a bunch of takes, but then I was like, hey, this is the worst one. Once it's done, it's done. And next one's going to be better. It's kind of like, you know, Tom Brady. Shout out Tom Brady when he says...
Tom Brady, Patriots fan.
Yeah, he's not playing for the Super Bowl he's in. He's playing for the next one. And that's what I think a lot of people just miss when it comes to getting out there on social media, getting out there to do whatever it is they want to do, real estate or the job they want. They're just like, I need everything to be perfect because they perceive that they only have one shot, and then people are just even going to say yay or nay, and they'll never get to do that again. But when we started real estate, you know, we probably did, you know, 9 deals crappy and 1 deal was great. But then that average goes down and you get better and better. But everybody, I think, has those insecurities. And one thing that you mentioned about not giving a crap is a good way to approach it, because I think just as you have insecurities, the other person does too. And then when you say, okay, I may be talking, you know, whatever I'm saying right now, but I'm sure the other person can't do any better. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it and not really care about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty entertaining when you see the older videos. I mean, especially that I've done, you know, they were so bad. You know, Wayne would video me, and I mean, you literally just sound like, you know, there's one house where literally there was there was the air conditioner, that there was a thermostat as well as a security system right next to each other. And I'd literally be like, this house has air conditioning and a thermostat right here, so you feel cold and comfortable in the house, but a security system also, so you feel safe and secure in your cool house.
This is a kitchen with a refrigerator where you keep your food.
And you got to be able to watch it and laugh at it and, you know, learn from it, you know?
It's funny they mentioned, because our podcast was in an office where you could hear the ventilation system. So there was this, like, the first podcast, which was introduction to who we are as a company and how we became to be, is the worst one, because there's this hum in there. It's like, and we're talking over it. It's not professional, but at the same time, I was just like, you know what? We just got to get over this and then move on to the next one.
No doubt. One thing that really helped me too with that and jumping in and really committing and deciding that you want to go all in, is I kind of looked at myself and I'm like, there's nothing special about me. There's nothing about me that other people can't do. Therefore, I need to come up and manufacture my own competitive advantage, which is going to be how much time.
That's a good manufacture your own competitive advantage. That's good.
That's
Right.
going on t-shirts.
MCA.
But seriously, that forced me to do more than everybody else. Now that I think I've pushed through above mediocrity in our industry, maybe just a tiny bit, but still, now I feel like I got people chasing me, and I need to keep pushing that even more and more. And the people that I'm associating with, the people that I'm friends with, Goran being an example, I'm like, man, I need to push myself up so, we still have stuff to talk about.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have to do that all the time. And like I said, starting is the hardest, but also realizing that's going to be your ticket to the next level, and just saying, hey, this is going to be the worst one, and then going to the next one that's going to be the best, and then the best after that. So
That's the key, man. It's just doing it, Nike, just do it. It's so many people have every excuse under the sun not to do it, and then
Gary Vee says that too, where he is on podcasting, he's videoing, he's on YouTube every single day, and somebody was like, well, aren't you afraid that somebody's just gonna steal everything that you're doing or use everything that you're doing? They're never gonna need you anymore. And he basically just is super blunt in saying that, well, that's the whole point, where I'll be saying all these great things, I'll be providing all this great information, and then most of the people will just not do anything about it, will not take the action to take that first step, and nothing will ever happen. So
it's really what separates you, and I mean, if you look at it from a perspective of, it's like, hey, you and me could both have the same database of clients. You could steal mine, and vice versa. But let's see who produces something out of it. And it's like, whether or not you take the extra step of putting the effort into it, it's going to really determine what results you get out of it. And so if you don't do that thing that manufactures your competitive advantage, then you're not going to, you're just going to blend right in with everybody else, and you're not going to have any type of leg up on the competition, and you're not going to be able to, be that star that shines that you could potentially be. You need to just do it.
Right. And, just to wrap this up, I wanted to challenge everyone that's listening. Well, challenge yourself. We'll challenge you second, but challenge yourself to actually to do what you've been putting off to do. What you were going to do a month ago that you still haven't done, that you're scared to do, that's something that needs to happen, but you haven't been able to do it, and just freaking do it.
Go do something, everyone.
Yep.
Thanks for listening.
Get off the couch.